It is 6:30 p.m. on April 30th. This is a special meeting for Intermediate District 287. Just a couple of general notes as we continue to navigate our protocols in our virtual meeting. This meeting is live streamed on the District 287 YouTube channel. The meeting is also being recorded, and that link will be posted on the District 287 website in the school board section. The public is invited to share their thoughts and comments with the board. If they choose to do so, they can complete the virtual meeting request form for written input, which is available on the 287 website in the school board section. Written comments received up to 30 minutes before the board meeting will be read during the meeting. And then just a couple of protocol reminders. Reminder that we should mute our speakers when we aren't speaking, and then reminder to turn them on when we do speak. I ask that all of us identify ourselves before speaking. The meeting is also being recorded, and that link will. And I ask that we not engage in text chats during the meeting. This is an open meeting. And what we're going to try this evening is if anybody has a question, to use the raising the hand feature on Board Book. And then for this virtual meetings, we will be taking votes by a roll call vote led by Crystal. So at this point in time, I'd like to invite, first I'd like to ask if Ruthie has been able to join the meeting. I'm not aware that she has, but I do want to double check. And I don't see that Ruthie Dallas has been able to join us yet. So in that case, I'm going to ask Michelle Kunz if you could please read the 287 mission statement.
I'm so sorry. I don't have it in front of me.
That's all right. I'm happy to.
I'm so sorry.
No apologies necessary. I have a copy here, so I will read it this evening. This is Regina Neville, and the mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. So now we'll follow with board member introductions. And Andrea, could I please ask that you call each of our names in alphabetical order so that we can each identify ourselves? I'm sorry, Crystal. I think I did that last time, but Crystal, you have that roll call list.
I do. We will go alphabetical by last name. So Mr. Adams.
Here.
And if you could please identify your district that you represent.
Adams, Hopkins School District.
I'm next. This is Crystal Brackey from Richfield. Casey.
Good evening, everyone. Ann Casey, St. Louis Park.
Keene.
Hello, Andrea Keene from Wayzata Public Schools.
Kunz.
Hi, Michelle Kunz, representing Orono.
Marty.
Hi, Heidi Marty here from West Tonka Schools.
Neville.
Regina Neville, representing Edina.
And I believe that is it because I don't see Sam yet either.
And correct. And then Adam is not able to join us this evening. Thank you so much. And these are the additional staff members who are with us this evening. Michelle Axel, Ann Becker, May Hawkins, Superintendent Sandy Lewandowski, Elizabeth Lodge Rogers, Ben McGrath, Chad Maxa, Juanine and Jeannie and Julie Torilla. And are there additional staff members who I may have missed? Thank you, everyone. Let's see. So at this point in time, I'm going to walk through our agenda. This is a special meeting. We have a brief agenda. We will have a superintendent's report for presentation of a proposed organizational chart for the 2020-2021 school year. And those are the items on our agenda this evening. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I want to welcome Sam Sant. Sam, thank you for joining us. And if you could please identify the district that you represent.
Hello, Regina. Thank you. Sam Sant.
Thank you. I've not heard any additions to the agenda, so hearing none, I move that we accept the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Steve Adams. Thank you. Crystal, could you please call the roll for approval of the agenda or
Adams.
of the agenda?
Adams votes yes.
Brackey is a yes. Casey.
Yes.
Keen.
Yes.
Coons.
Aye.
Marty.
Yes.
Neville.
Yes.
Sant.
Yes.
Thank you. The agenda will move forward as presented. Juanine, have there been any forms submitted for audience opportunity to speak?
No, there hasn't.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll move forward to our superintendent's report. And Superintendent Lewandowski, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And again, thank you for being here at this special board meeting. I did get a question from a board member about why this special meeting. And as I'll explain some of the parts of the organizational chart, I understood that we had approximately 5 weeks between our last board meeting and the board meeting coming up in May, which is just a kind of a fluke of the way the calendars fell this year. So the agenda item I'm going to talk to you about, I felt it was in the best interest of the district to try to get this item before you so that we could hopefully move on to next steps in the process. So that's why I'm bringing this to you via a special meeting. And it is not the first organizational chart change that I've suggested this year for those of you that have been part of the board for the entire board year. We have made a couple of singular kind of changes in earlier board meetings. And I've also mentioned that it was probably likely this was going to be the 1 year that we had multiple organizational changes. And that's due to a number of reasons. But also, I think, as some board members have noted, I tend to work with our district organizational chart as a really a vital and vibrant kind of tool to constantly try to move our finite resources to our strategic priorities. And you'll see those strategic priorities in the infographic that's at the top of the organizational chart. But they include at the center, obviously, student outcomes. The outer circle represents the racial equity priorities we have, and we are trying to accomplish those things via evidence-based instruction, trauma-sensitive practices, and employee well-being. So there's always that in the back of my head as I try to organize ourselves for the next school year, and those strategic priorities are at the top of the list. At the same time, there are often practical operational needs, if you will, of our member districts. For example, special education is the center of our district's offerings. It's the largest proportion of what we do. And as you're aware, there's a multitude of complexities to special education programming that we offer here in the district and our interface with our member districts. So having the needed capacity to meet those many obligations is also part of the reasoning that I'm bringing this to you this evening. Finally, there's sometimes a need to eliminate positions or combine position responsibilities for alignment or financial reasons, and I'll try to highlight one or two of those to you tonight. But that also is a major part of the thinking when I bring something like this to board. And I think maybe what would be best is to start explaining the changes on the chart to you with two of the ones that you would have been aware of prior to me sending out this chart. As many of you recall, if you were here in earlier this school year, we had a resignation of one of our executive directors, Ben Silverglit, which I ultimately combined with a position that was on the chart, the principal on special assignment chart, and I appointed Ben McGrath to that position. And that is now recognized in this new chart, which has an X on that principal on special assignment box. So if the board would to approve this tonight, that box will disappear from the chart, if you will. Another one that you are aware of that came to you in a communication is the fact that Lee Dahl, who has been with us for a number of very amazing years in the district. She served in a number of positions, but as she has retired for this school year going into the next school year, we have moved her responsibilities to combine with an existing principal position, Alexia Poppy Finley's position. Alexia currently is the principal for the West Education Center, as well as some of our transition programs that are on the campus of HTC in Eden Prairie. And because Lee's primary responsibilities as she retires are on that campus with career technical and ALC programming, after many discussions, we believe that was an efficient way to organize ourselves, and her responsibilities will now fall under Alexia's box on the chart. And you'll see that then with a check mark to note that that's a change or addition of responsibilities for Alexia. So those two items are already items that you were likely aware of or should have been aware of, and they will change should the board try to approve this chart tonight. So then maybe more central to you tonight are two positions that are a result of multiple kind of operational realities where we've had a number of leaves and absences that have resulted in us having to do temporary shifts of director duties to a variety of people, and those responsibilities have certainly been upheld, but we have been limited in our capacity to be able to bring all of the functions of those positions into reality and to achieve as much as we had hoped to. So that became a primary goal for me as I look toward next year. How could I both basically fulfill all the responsibilities we're responsible for, as well as do my best to try to keep the costs neutral always, but certainly in this time where there's a lot of uncertainty. And so with that, I wanted to start with the Director of Special Education position that currently is listed as Director of Special Education and Student Support Services. That position has actually been split apart and come together and combined more than once in the history of the district. And in this case, to fulfill some of the responsibilities of the Director of Special Education and the Student Support Services, I felt it was best to split it apart. And many of those responsibilities have been completed by Melissa Broding over the last several months. She has been functioning as being responsible for a number of those items, and she has done an outstanding job. Melissa's been with us, I think, a little under a decade, and has come through the itinerant program. And so you'll see on there that she has been responsible for itinerant programming as an assistant director. That position will be deleted, if you will, or canceled out or dropped from the chart. And I'm recommending that she become the Director of Student Support Services, as well as that itinerant principal. She will retain those responsibilities. One of the nuances that's sometimes hard to explain in this kind of scenario of reorganization is that it's difficult, and this is a good example, where one isn't able to just cancel out the assistant director position and post for a director position, because in this case, the employee still owns that assistant director position. So it would have represented an extra position if I had done it that way. So I chose to appoint Melissa, not only, but primarily because of her excellent service she's given to the district, her great relationships with member districts, and really her significant knowledge of special education. And I might add, retain her in the district. It is not unusual, as many of you are aware, for districts to seek new administrators, and certainly Melissa would be on the short list for anybody looking for a director, and we really wanted to retain her because of our needs in the district. So the assistant director position is eliminated, and the Director of Student Support and Itinerant Services has a green check to note that it's added as a director position. So this is not a new position, it is a change in title in this regard. The last change I want to mention to you is the Director of School and Community Engagement. And you are aware that we are completing a search and recruitment process and hiring process for a Director of Equity and Inclusion. But I saw an opportunity here to really recognize some of the urgency of our students, particularly our students of color, who have been impacted in a really systemic way by racism, segregation, and trauma. And while I am quite confident whoever we hire as the Director of Equity and Inclusion will be helping with that broad district goal of trying to help us move to a racially equitable situation, or more equitable situation for our students of color, I felt like we also had an urgency that yet was not recognized in dealing with that challenge. For our kids, as you see in that consequences of racism, racism, segregation, and trauma chart, it has become our understanding over time of how compelling it is when kids move into our programs and have a very challenging time as they move through that pipeline because of those three factors, and are ultimately ending up with very poor adult outcomes, that of the pipeline to prison, or unemployment, or lack of a high school diploma. There's many outcomes that are rooted, as we learned from the Minnesota Equity Partnership meetings that we had with our superintendents last year. I felt that there was one person in the district that had both the experience in trying to address some of those equities, as well as the passion and skill to address some of those inequities. And so moving around some of the other boxes allowed me to put a recommendation in for this particular position. And I'm recommending that Tanya Allen be appointed to that position. She is actually someone who we believe can hit the ground running and help us address that particular huge priority that I feel our kids have an urgency that really requires that kind of attention. It will deal, as the title says, with family and community engagement. But Tanya also has a social work background. She's been the the key leader of therapeutic teaching program with Wilder at the North Education Center. She has a background in mental health and partnerships. For the duration of a current leave that we have, we felt she could really supplement with some of those things to help propel us in the way that we thought we were going to move this year and haven't fully been able to. She also is very knowledgeable about trauma-sensitive practices and will help lead that effort here in the near term as we go forward. I should mention that in the case of Melissa, she will report to Elizabeth, and in Tanya's case, she would report to Ben McGrath in this organizational chart. That is a summary of the changes that I'm recommending. They are cost neutral, assuming the leaves and absences continue as they have been. They meet the strategic priorities that we increasingly are trying to get very action oriented in District 287. And I believe this recommended organizational plan not only gives us some of that urgency and leadership power, but I also believe it will best meet the needs of our member districts as we go forward. So I will pause right there in terms of an explanation and ask the board if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sandy. I do see 3 hands raised. So the first one is Heidi Marty. Heidi, do you have a question? Or that might have been a test hand raise.
It was a test hand raise, but could you just say again, Sandy, did you say that Lee Dahl is leaving, retiring, and so that responsibility is going to Alexia?
That's correct. She is retiring after a very long career with District 287. And so that box, so you'll see a red X that represents that position being eliminated. And again, should the board approve this, the red X's would disappear on the chart and the board approved chart would have only the others remaining. But yes, she was a retirement, and because of the proximity and the overlap at the Eden Prairie campus of Hennepin Technical College, it felt appropriate, and Alexia agreed that those responsibilities be under her responsibility area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next request is from Steve Adams. Steve, do you have a question or comment, or that may have
Trying to
also?
find the mute button. No, that was a test also.
Thank you. That's okay. And I'm figuring out how this is actually pretty cool. Thank you. So Sand, you're the next question or comment.
I think he's on mute, Regina.
Yeah, Sam, can you unmute your microphone? We still can't hear you.
There we go.
I don't know. There, I think that's it. Go ahead. Oh, no, not yet. No. And you know what? I had this issue earlier today on another meeting. I think it was Zoom, but I was not able to get my mic unmuted. So I don't know why it happens.
It looks like he was unmuted on Google Hangout. So Sam, I don't know if it's maybe your phone, if you want to make sure that the mute button on your phone isn't on.
Did he call in?
It seems like it might be his earbud.
Okay. Sam, if you can
Have him
hear
text
us, can you give a thumbs up? Can you hear us? Sam, can you hear us? I don't know if he can hear us either. Sam, oh, you can hear us. Thank you for that. And let's see. Chad or Juanita, I don't know if there are any recommendations we can give to help him navigate.
Yes. Sam, do you have an earbud in? Or are you just using the speakers on and microphone on your phone? Or you might try to go into the settings in the bottom right-hand corner. There's 3 dots. And there's a settings option in there. No earbuds? Okay. You might just check in there to make sure that the right microphone and speakers are set up.
Could he possibly ask his question via text, or is that violating the open meeting?
Anne, can you answer that question?
That would be violating the open meeting, although I suppose we could read the question out.
That's what I was going to suggest. And we would also get a text transcription from the chat as well that we'll have as an archive document from the meeting too.
Oh, wait, Sam, are you unmuted? You look
No.
unmuted, not yet. We still can't hear you, but it does, your video box does look like it's unmuted.
The other option would be for him to leave the meeting briefly and we just pause and have him rejoin. Sometimes that will take care of it.
That took care of it in the meeting that I was struggling with earlier today. So Sam, do you want to give that a try and we'll just wait? We'll see what we can get. Welcome back. Go ahead and try speaking again. Oh, no. Okay, we can't hear you. Is there a way that he could call by telephone and be on speaker so everybody could hear him?
Yes, in the invitation, there is a number that he could call and join by telephone.
Okay, and I'm gonna see if I can pull up that phone number.
I have it right in front of me if you would like me to.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and share that phone number? And then Sam, is that something you could try, is just calling in and then maybe we can hear you by phone?
Actually, I think I'll email it to Sam.
Okay, that's fine. So Sam, watch for the email.
Could I ask a question of Sandy?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Heidi.
Heidi Marty here. I just wanted to see if you had an update on the status of seeking the Director of Equity and Inclusion.
Yes, actually, I do. Thank you. I was going to bring that up, but this is a good time to do that. Actually, the recruitment process was really quite successful. We had over 50 candidates. A screening process was completed by a committee of individuals, and over the course of this week, I want to say that there's about 10 or 11 interviews taking place by, again, a committee that represents multiple employee groups in the district. And so this will be the first round of in-person interviews, obviously virtual interviews, but the recommendations from that set of interviews will result in a second set of interviews to be completed next week. with any luck, we'll have a result of that at the next board meeting, depending on how a number of variables might play out just in terms of timing. But it is going very well, well received, interesting, highly qualified candidates, and a very robust interview process happening.
Thank you. And Sam, are you back on? Oh, well, I thought I had seen you logged on again. But I do see a new phone logged in. So Sam, is this you? Hi, Sam, can you hear me?
Looks like his box is still muted.
Let's see. It does. So, Sam, if it's possible to unmute your phone. Okay, I want him to be able to hear and participate in the conversation.
At this point, maybe we have him join the Hangout again and do it via chat, since that seemed to work. And then we can, Regina, you could, or somebody else could read his chat message.
We can do that. I think Sam, if you could please rejoin. And is it possible that a staff member could maybe read the chat posts if we go that direction?
Yes, Ben, would you do that, please?
Thank you very much.
Sure
So
thing.
Sam, if you are able to come back and join and then submit your questions. I wonder if it's possible for him to call a staff member and be on speakerphone so we can hear him speak. Is that an option? Well, let's just try one more time. Sam, just try again to speak, just to see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, this is a tech victory. Go ahead. Please go
No.
ahead with your question. I want to
Well-
keep moving with that.
Well, I apologize first. I was on the on my iPad and I could hear everyone and see everyone, but my volume or my speaker wasn't working. And now I'm on the Chromebook, and that seems to work fine right now.
Excellent.
Now, regarding the organizational change, I wanted to speak on with quite a few comments on what's happened over the past week and a half. I've spoken with the superintendent and with the board chair, and I will be speaking against this reorganization. One of the reasons being that from speaking with the superintendent, these positions weren't opened to the public like most typical positions would be, or all typical positions in our district, especially for lower level employees. And I feel that, without doing that, we're not being fair to everyone to allow for people to apply and then make a hiring decision from that. I'm not trying to say anything about the qualifications with that being said, but I feel that is the right process we should take and have our due diligence. Also, during a lot of this, past week or so, I've received a lot of phone calls and complaints regarding one particular applicant, Miss Melissa Barting, and her management style and what she's done. I've gotten complaints I've heard from bullying, intimidation, her way or the highway mentality, wouldn't participate in observations with students, and wouldn't take employees' feedback into consideration regarding students, to name a few. Another issue that I have seen that I've spoken with the superintendent and the chair was there's possibility of a conflict of interest with her aunt working at the district. I know she's not been working there. I believe her name was Dolly, that had worked there in the past. And I've heard over the last few years, she had been working as a contract employee. And I know I've spoken with the outside legal counsel and did not hear back of what she had to say regarding this issue, but wanted to allow us to move forward with this vote. I don't feel that having 27 to 30 hours is ample enough time to put us at ease and make sure that we're doing our due diligence as a district and making sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's.
Thank you, Sam. I don't know that I appreciate you sharing your concerns. And I don't know if there is anything that can be shared in response at this point in an open meeting. So I appreciate that. And please correct me if I'm not accurate in stating that, but I'm not sure that there is any response that I'm able to make at this time.
I guess that would depend on the nature of the response. I'm not sure what information you have, but it's quite possible that it's not information that could be shared.
What I believe I am able to share is that it is the recommendation of our outside legal counsel that our meeting continue, that there's no reason to postpone the proposal of the organizational structure as presented.
Are we not doing our due diligence then by making sure that everything is done thoroughly? Given 30 hours, not even 2 days to review this case and to make sure that everything is correct for ourselves as well as the applicant, to make sure going forward that we're safe.
I am comfortable with moving forward, and that's as much as I can recommend at this point. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, that is disheartening to hear. I've received these phone calls and this information that I've brought to the board. These are employees that do not feel safe in their environment and are afraid to come forward. And I think we need to do our due diligence as an employee, as after employment, to make sure that this matter gets resolved and looked into.
And, again, the matter has been looked into based on the information that was available.
And within 30 hours, I don't see that as being sufficient. And I would recommend to the board.
I appreciate your concern. Sam, are there any other questions or comments that you would like to share?
No.
And Anne, I noted that you had your hand raised as well. Is there any comment or question that you'd like to make at this time?
I just wanted to say that I don't think that this was fair to Ms. Brotting. No complaints have been brought forward to the district, to a board member, yes, but not to the district about this.
Thank you. And are there other questions or comments from any board members? I don't see any other hands raised, but Crystal, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, Sam, I think your overall point about positions being open and available for all who are interested to compete is very well taken. And it's something that I also feel strongly about. I also, having had a chance to think about this particular set of recommendations, feel comfortable supporting the leadership of the district in their judgment about what is needed at this particular moment in time. So I'm trying to hold both of those things as truths, and that I generally very strongly advocate and am uncomfortable when positions are filled without a really clear and open process, in part because I think it can put staff members at a disadvantage if there is a perception that they were put into a role without potentially having that fair and transparent process. So I want to specifically respond to that point that you raised that I think is fair and valid. And at the same time, I believe our role as a board is to take the recommendation as it comes to us. And for this particular one, I am comfortable with it. So just want to say that I will be supporting it in this particular example and context.
Thank you, Crystal. Sandy, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to mention a couple of things. One that I mentioned a few minutes earlier, There's a variety of very operational kinds of themes when you try to figure out how to reconfigure things. And one of those things is that when you have an existing person in an existing position, and in this case, someone who has been doing primarily the entire role that's described in this position over the last several months and has been doing it very well, that's one consideration. Melissa has an excellent background. As Ann mentioned, we have not received any complaints about this administrator for, as far as I know, the tenure of her time with the district in the last decade. She has excellent evaluations. And on a very practical standpoint, when you have that and you're trying to figure out how to keep this cost neutral, you can't post that new position for which she could apply for without keeping in mind that she already has a position. So let's just play this out for a bit. If we were to post, as you suggested, and interview, and somehow the result of that was that someone else got that position, I would then have two positions, which increases the cost of a overall reorganization, of which I was trying to keep it cost neutral. So there's some nuances there that may be somewhat hidden from the public view, but in this case, it would be one of mine. I wouldn't have been able to do this without being able to eliminate the assistant director position and keeping the costs relatively the same. But even with that, it is my recommendation, and very pleased to be making it, that Melissa would be a great candidate for this job in this position.
Thank you. I don't see other hands raised, but I do want to ask if anybody else. Andrea, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Regina. I just have a couple of quick comments. My first one is to thank Sam for really standing up for what I can tell you believe in. My personal opinion is that it's really difficult for board members when you get put in a position like that, because the employees, for a wide range of reasons, may be valid, have chosen to not go through the systems that are in place for them to share their concerns within the district. And when they don't use those systems and come to you as a board member, you get put into a really uncomfortable position, because there's nothing to really back you up in terms of evaluations or formal complaints. And it's just really difficult. So I do respect you for standing up for that. I will be supporting the new organizational chart. I want to thank Sandy for being strategic about it and keeping it cost neutral. I think most of the time it is best practice to open it up to everyone who might be a good hire for that position. But I also think there are times strategically when the superintendent, it's your prerogative, Sandy, to hire who you'd like, when you would like. And obviously you do that rarely, because I think the new equity position is a great example of you want to get the very best candidate possible. But I think in this situation, I respect the way you've done it, and I respect your judgment, and the fact that she is an internal candidate who you know well. I feel comfortable supporting this. So thanks for letting me make my comments.
Thank you, Andrea. And I understand that Ruthie Dallas is trying to get through. She has joined the meeting. I'm not able to see her present, although that obviously does not mean she isn't here. And I know that she, I want to make sure that if you'd like to make a comment, Ruthie, that you're able to do so. With that, Chad or Juanine, is there any recommendation or advice that either of you can offer so that we can hear Ruthie?
I'm just looking now to see what her.
And while we're we're working with that because I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to hear any comments or questions from Ruthie. But Sam, I do appreciate Andrea's comments. I want to echo that. I appreciate you taking the time to share what you felt you could share. And I certainly appreciate your position and I respect it. Thank you. And while we're waiting to see if we can help Ruthie get fully logged on, are there any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, do we know if Ruthie has called in?
I don't know, but I received an email from her and what she wrote to me is, I cannot get through. I can hear you, but you cannot hear me. Am I muted? So I'm not sure by what method. Maybe it's possible that she's live streaming
I
and
believe
it's not
Ruthie,
done.
sorry, Madam Chair. I believe
ahead.
Ruthie is trying to call in.
Okay. And
'Cause I-
is there anything I should do on my end?
I don't think so.
No, there's not until she joins or calls in.
Okay. I think her phone number is I see a phone number here that's muted. So I think this is the number that ends 95, I believe.
If
is
that's her
Ruthie. She's
number,
the-
then Juanine can
It
unmute
is.
her.
So
Juanine,
she's
I think you
called
can unmute
and
her.
that is Ruthie.
Okay, so how do I do that, Chad?
If you click on Ruthie in the list of people that have joined, and then it should pop up in the middle of your screen. And if you click in the middle there, you can actually, you know what, you can unmute her. She's going to have to do it herself. Yeah.
So Ruthie, I understand you can hear us. If there's a way that you can find to unmute your phone.
If she takes her finger and touches the screen, the toolbar should pop up and she should be able to hit the unmute or the microphone button on the bottom. That's all I can think of, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Ruthie, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your patience. And I certainly would like to hear any comments or questions that you have. If it's possible, let's see, chatting. Sam, I know you have a comment as well. Sam, go ahead, please.
I can wait till Ruthie gets on.
Okay. So I'm trying to think, I mean, Ruthie, you could potentially email in your questions and we could have a member of the staff read them, if that would be helpful. And I'm guessing that might be complex as well because you have to put the phone down, send an email, and then pick it up again to listen. But if that is possible, I would invite you to do so that we can make sure to hear any question or comment that you may have. Okay, so here's, let's see here. You're unmuted. Oh, Ruthie, are you unmuted? You appear to, she sent an email saying that she is unmuted. It appears that she may still be muted. So Ruthie, just to clarify, I appreciate your email and the email says, no, go ahead with the meeting. I am unmuted. But then just, I want to make sure that I don't miss any question or comment you might have. If Ruthie, if you could please email just to confirm that you have no questions or comments at this point. And I'm going to wait for that email, but it appears that she may not have a question. I do want to make sure that before we conclude everything that I have confirmation of that. So in the meantime, Sam, could you go ahead, please?
Yes, I just wanted to speak to Andrea's point. I've come from a place where I've worked that, employees have had issues with upper management, and they've been so afraid, even with a union representing them, to come forward because they don't want to rock the boat or have some sort of target on them, and they look at other avenues to go through to do that. And so I can see why so many employees wouldn't and come to out in this type of scenario. And being a board member, I don't know how or why, if anybody else was contacted besides me or not, but I was in this situation. I've kept their identity confidential, but these types of issues I'm hearing consistently, and I thought it was a concern to bring to the rest of the board and to the superintendent. Being that, I would like to make a motion to table this.
Okay, there is a motion to table. Is there a second? And I will repeat the question. There is a motion to table. Is there a second? And I will repeat for a third time. There is a motion to table. Is there a second? Hearing no second, there is nothing that there will not be a vote on the motion to table, but thank you. I appreciate the suggestion. Are there any other questions or comments? And Ruthie, I have not received a text. I just want to confirm that whether or not you have any questions or comments. And I'll ask the rest of the board too while we wait for Ruthie's confirmation. Is there any other board member who has a question or comment? And we'll just wait to see if there's anything from Ruthie. And Ruthie, if possible, I would just ask that you send an email to confirm whether or not you have a question or comment before we move forward. And then a question about protocol. And if in the case Ruthie is here, which I appreciate, she's able to hear us, and we will go forward with a roll call vote. Is it possible for that roll call to acknowledge an email vote of yes or no? Or does it need to be audible?
Madam Chair, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I've never been faced with it before. I would recommend that we go ahead and record her vote. And we may later find out that we can't count it, but I think it should be recorded.
Thank you. And I would like to suggest that the email be sent to possibly a member of the staff or to Juanine. Is that, or, Ruthie has been emailing me, but I want to ask what's appropriate. So thank you. I just received an email. I think this email went to all of us. So I believe that this is visible by the full board. And Ruthie writes, I have no question at this time, just interested in the process and how the recruitment took place. So thank you, Ruthie. And Superintendent Lewandowski, could you please speak to Ruthie's question, just interested in the process on how the recruitment took place?
Thank you. In both cases, there were internal discussions with other top leadership. but probably fair to say that it was my judgment that these were the two kinds of needs that we had in the organizational chart. I did talk with the board chair at length as we were talking about the challenges that we have. I also had a conversation with board officers about the organizational chart and my recommendations. I think that knowing the two individuals, in this case, Melissa and Tanya, for a number of years, and knowing their strengths and their ability to do the job firsthand, and looking at their collective files and evaluations was what I did. I think there's another important part here to know that there's also an element to this that I referenced earlier, that in this environment where top talent is very, very, you can lose top talent to other districts in a heartbeat. Special ed directors, special directors, student support services is one of those particular positions that is very highly recruited, very challenging position. In this case, we're fortunate to have a Tina and, in this case, a Melissa in the district who both know the nuances of the intermediate and the nuances of our member districts. And in that case, I felt that the knowledge of Melissa's record served me with enough of information and the fact that the practical part of you can't eliminate somebody's position, open up a new position in a